Well, it may or may not be a game changer, but the 11th hour scandal surrounding Georgia Senate candidate Herschel Walker is just the latest in a long history of the October surprise before a November election. CNN's Eva McCann has been looking at this for us and joins us from Washington. So what does history tell us, Eva?
Well, Georgia's Republican Senate candidate Herschel Walker continues to be mired in scandal. The Daily Beast now reporting the same woman who said Walker paid for her abortion in 2009 is also the mother of one of his children. This shakeup in the competitive Senate contest between Walker and incumbent Democratic Senator Raphael Warnock fits into a long history of October surprises in tight political races.
It's October. Leaves begin to change color, the weather starts to chill. But in the world of politics, it's when campaigns start to heat up, and it's when unexpected news or events often occur during the election cycle, commonly known as an October surprise. A game-changing event that can possibly damage one candidate's chances and boost the others. October surprises have been around for decades, and it is part of U.S. politics, even before the term was used politically. Going back 50 years to 1972, President Richard Nixon's national security advisor, Henry Kissinger, has late news about the unpopular Vietnam War.
We believe that peace is at hand.
He was wrong, and the war wouldn't come to a close for 2.5 more years. In 1980, in what was the October surprise that never happened, 52 U.S. hostages held in Iran were not released before the election, despite President Jimmy Carter's efforts. Instead, they were set free as soon as Ronald Reagan was inaugurated. In '92, Reagan's successor, George H.W. Bush, seeking re-election, was days away from the vote when a top Reagan team member, Caspar Weinberger, was indicted over the Iran-Contra affair. Bill Clinton took the White House. In 2000, in what was already a tight presidential race between Vice President Al Gore and then Texas Governor George W. Bush, news emerged that Bush was arrested 24 years earlier for drunk driving. Bush lost the popular vote, although he ultimately won the presidency following a controversial Supreme Court decision. 8 years later, with the stock market taking a nosedive and recession rearing its ugly head, GOP presidential nominee John McCain insisted,
"Fundamentals of our economy are strong."
Voters disagreed with this assessment, and what was once a tight race became a Democratic blowout, with Barack Obama winning. In 2012, in what was more of a September surprise than an October surprise, audio tape of Republican presidential nominee Mitt Romney surfaced, characterizing almost half the voters as dependent on government handouts.
There are 47% of the people who will vote for the president no matter what.
President Obama went on to win re-election. In 2016, in what seemed like every event constituted as an October surprise, the Washington Post published a 2005 video of Republican presidential nominee Donald Trump boasting about being able to grab women by their genitals.
You know, I'm automatically attracted to beautiful. I just start kissing them. It's like a magnet. You just kiss. I don't even wait. And when you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything.
Whatever you want.
Grab them by the I can do anything.
Trump's Democratic challenger Hillary Clinton also faced scrutiny when the FBI reopened an investigation into her staff's use of a private email server.
We can be sure that what is in those emails is absolutely devastating.
They will reach the same conclusion they did when they looked at my emails for the last year. There is no case here.
And during the 2020 presidential election, where it was a true October surprise, Trump, along with the First Lady, tested positive for coronavirus, days after the first presidential debate with Joe Biden.
My wife Jill and I prayed that they'll make a quick and full recovery.
And while Trump tried to make his own October surprise in the closing days of his campaign, it all but fizzled, from a pre-election vaccine to a massive new stimulus package.
As we've noted, CNN has not yet been able to independently verify the accusations in the Daily Beast reports underway in this current October surprise. The former NFL star, who continues to call these allegations lies, will be back out on the campaign trail, holding a rally in just a few hours.
Eva, thank you. A lot to discuss here.
Yeah, so joining us now, CNN political commentator and Republican strategist Alice Stewart, CNN political commentator S.E. Cupp, and CNN senior political analyst John Avlon. Let me frame this as a question here. The question really is, are we post-history when it comes to October surprises? Does anything matter anymore? Does something like this matter? Or has really Donald Trump changed? After Access Hollywood, is anything possible?
Yeah, I think yesterday for CNN declared the October surprise dead. First of all, anyone following the Herschel Walker campaign should not be surprised by these revelations. We've learned a lot about Herschel Walker, none of it very good. Secondly, I don't think there are a lot of conservative or Republican Georgia voters who think any differently of him now. In fact, I'm hearing, at least according to his campaign director, his fundraising surged in the light of these accusations and allegations. And I'm not hearing anyone in the party, Republican leaders, denouncing it. They're standing by him. So we might be, alarmed by it, I think rightly so. But I don't think this will shake loose a lot of voters. He might not win, but I don't think it's going to be because Republican voters in Georgia decided, well, this is too far.
Well, all right, look, so, I mean, part of this, obviously, is that the bar for Herschel Walker couldn't be any lower. But still, I think the Daily Beast reporting is surprising to the extent that on the same day he's saying, I don't have a clue who this woman is, they say, actually, it's a woman you had a previously undisclosed child out of wedlock with. So that, that doesn't track. Look, in defense of Georgia voters and Georgia Republican voters, in 2020, they proved that swing voters, were still alive. They split the ticket between folks. And that's one of the reasons Joe Biden won is Republicans, particularly in the suburbs in Georgia, said, you know what, I can't deal with Donald Trump again. I'm going Biden. The problem is I think a lot of Republican operatives have been saying out loud and commentators, you know what, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that he's a hypocrite on abortion. All we want is this seat. Character doesn't matter. Competence doesn't matter. Truth-telling doesn't matter. And that is, I think, a really dangerous thing. That's about not being post-history, but potentially post-truth when it comes to this stuff.
But what we're seeing is that character and ethics are really not a qualifying factor for elected officials anymore. People are looking past a lot of that. And it's unfortunate, but it is actual reality. And here's what we're going to see. October surprises are just as common as we saw the leaves changing and death and taxes. People expect that. But in my conversations with people in my home state of Georgia, they are not concerned with what Herschel Walker did in 2009. They're looking at what he is promising to do as a U.S. senator.
He's not promising to do anything else. Let's be honest about this. What we're saying is character doesn't count in a Senate seat. What we're saying is competence doesn't count because nobody's voting, right? I mean, and that's what's really dangerous, because if you go down that slippery slope and you say that character doesn't count, competence doesn't count, telling the truth doesn't count, what you're really saying is party above country, power above everything. And that's antithetical to the idea of the Senate and to the ideals that our democracy actually depends upon, which is enough people saying the person over the party.
But I don't even know. Go ahead, Alice. Go ahead.
What people are focusing on are the policies. They look at what Herschel Walker.
Policies?
There's no policy here.
His policies with regard to fighting crime.
What policies does Herschel have? He's against it?
He certainly wants to.
Is Raphael Warnock for it? I mean, you got a reverend here. You're a person of faith. You got an actual reverend or someone who lies about getting an abortion while being anti-abortion on the surface. Isn't that, to the extent that faith impacts political decisions, I'm not clear why some Georgia voters who are people of faith wouldn't say, given the overturning of Roe, you know what, the actual reverend might be a better emissary of faith.
Trump, too. I mean, they already compartmentalized character, morality, honesty, truth-telling, integrity. And I worry that if we cede that, what are we voting for? Because it's not conservatism. I don't see conservatism in a lot of this. I don't see policies, principles, ideas. I see not virtue signaling, but vice signaling. I see people like Herschel Walker and Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren Boebert and Donald Trump and Matt Gaetz vice signaling to their base. And all we're voting for now is who do they hate and are they the same people I hate?
What Georgia voters are looking at is the front page of the Atlanta Journal-Constitution and all of the TV stations in Atlanta, and there's a story of crime after crime after crime. That's a huge issue. And they're looking at
I get that.
And they're looking at crime is a big issue, the economy is a big issue, and inflation is an issue. And Herschel Walker is talking about those issues. And they look at Raphael Warnock as someone who is part of the problem and they want to see a solution.
I
and he is furthering the Biden.
That would
hold
make
on,
sense if Herschel Walker hadn't won the nomination. There were other people to choose from, and we already knew a lot about Herschel Walker's character and competence before he was the one Republicans chose. It's not Herschel versus Warnock. It's Herschel versus any other Republican.
And look, I just, democracy does depend on enough people saying, look, I'm going to vote for the person, not the party. I'm an independent. I voted for Democrats or Republicans in my life. The idea is that something should be disqualifying. Truth-telling, hypocrisy, competence, the ability to string together a coherent sentence, whatever it may be. But the excuse that, oh, well, it doesn't matter because I'm voting for the policies is just not credible in the case of Herschel Walker.
Alice, go ahead.
One last thing on that. There were other good candidates that ran in the primary that should have been the nominee. The agriculture director in Georgia should have been the nominee, but he wasn't. And where we stand right now, we have a binary choice between a candidate that will support policies that Republicans in Georgia like and a candidate that will further the Biden policies. That's what we're at, a binary choice right now. Herschel Walker, without a doubt, is a flawed candidate. But right now, he is the candidate that Georgians have.
Let me just pose another question here, which gets to, again, how you may look at this in other races now and going forward. I think one of the questions is Donald Trump a unicorn? Is Donald Trump the guy who could get away with anything and still get elected? And is he different than other people? Is Herschel Walker going to be the next Donald Trump? Does he have the same qualities that Donald Trump did, whatever they were, to squeak out of this?
Because that used to be the narrative. What Donald Trump could get away with, no other candidate could. And we're seeing the polling still rather tight as this scandal continues to evolve.
And I think what we saw with Donald Trump, anytime he was accused of anything or we saw this Access Hollywood tape, what was his response? Deny, deflect, and demean those that accuse him of these things. That's exactly what Herschel Walker's doing. This will be a perfect litmus test to see if anyone besides Donald Trump can get away with Trumpism.
Well, and so are Republicans are helping. They're blaming Democrats for the smear when it was his ex, baby mama who came out with the allegation. And folks in right-wing media are smearing this woman who is, by the way, the mother of another one of his children. Because why? He hates the right people. And we want to win the Senate back.
But are you guys a yes or no on the idea that Trump's unique? Are you guys a yes or a no that other people can manage the Escape Act that he
I
did?
think the water has changed because the downstream effect of Donald Trump, but particularly in the Republican Party. Let's be honest about this. It's not necessarily. This is why the statewide electorate is actually the better test, because we've seen plenty of candidates who are Trump light and win their primaries. That's the problem, is when you have one-party states, when you have safe districts, these folks go up and represent folks in Congress, and that itself sort of defines deviancy down, if you will.
Well, there are already plenty in Congress. I mean, there are already plenty who have won. Whether they can stay there or they wash out like a Madison Cawthorn when tides change in their states, who knows? But it's not like no one was able to replicate or get away with stuff that should be disqualifying to either get in or once they're in. I mean, some of the stuff Marjorie Taylor Greene has done and said is disgusting, reprehensible, disqualifying, and she has plenty of support.
This, just to go back to the unified field theory of what screwed up in our politics, it's not Donald Trump. It's hyper-partisanship. It's safe districts. It's a lack of competitive general elections. And the reason that this matters, this is a competitive general election in a swing seat. Right. And normally these kind of things should be disqualifying for people of good faith and independent judgment. And we'll see if that happens. That's why this race matters.
Right. And that's why I think moving forward, we'll find out in November, Republicans need to make sure that they nominate candidates that are not just great for the primary, but can also win a general election.
Oh, from your lips.
Going to be enough.
Commissioner McConnell's online, too.
Exactly, waiting to talk to you.
Stewart, SC Cupp, John Avlon, thank you all very much.
Sure.